I am Konkankoh. I come from Cameroon, speaking to you now from Portugal. The crisis seemed to bring a lot of separation. So COVID met me here in Portugal after another crisis, which is a civil war. So I'm in a kind of migrant, not a migrant, I'm in exile because of the work I was doing in my community. In Cameroon, I started an NGO called Better World Cameroon. It was a translation of the culture that I brought from my village to the capital city. And because of who I am, my name represents something about my culture, what I carry from my people. I was inspired to bring it to the city as a response to the waywardness of the youth. As a small child growing up, I was initiated into leadership or the elders council of my village when I was 13. So this was a system where even the young had a voice in the matters of the village. I can quote what somebody, an African writer, said, and which is what was the belief in my village, that if we build a village without bringing in the young people, they will burn it down just to feel its warmth. So this was to keep a culture of the warmth. For us is what characterizes African solidarity. You can call it love. It's a love economy. So this love economy, it consists of loving your community, not just the surroundings, but also the values that go with it. So it was interesting for me to find that the spiritual forest was the world. So in 1996, I created an umbrella organization for youth associations and women farming groups, because I thought that these principles of growing up in a healthy environment and also considering the health of the soul, they were lacking in the kind of education that I was being forced into. So this is how it all started, this journey of where I am today. I later on created a concept based on these values, combining them with the education, the science I had learned with groups of young people. So this space, it's always about the land. It's to reconnect the people to the land, and the land is the community. The community is the people, the rivers, the mountains, the animals. So this made life really holistic. And I enjoyed life when I was growing up in the village. So I had to help the young people, I was young myself, to see what we could do, because initiation was to help find pathways into adulthood, into responsible citizenship, and how to take care of the environment, the culture, the values. So these were things that young people are supposed to work on. So this was our own education system. So this led me to create this community garden where young students or graduates, anybody who felt that they needed to redesign their lives because there was no work, there was all you can imagine in the city. So I got connected because of my project with the Global Ecovillage Network. And talking about a better world in Cameroon gave visibility to the project. Students from SOAS in London, School of Oriental and African Studies, came out to do a case study of this project and then started a new dimension of linking the community garden with the Ecovillage Network and linking it with sending organizations. So we started to design curriculums for work camps. And students traveled from Europe, from North America, from all over the world to come to this simple place, which is now Bafut Ecovillage. And because it's a kingdom, and I am also related to the royalty. So these values, which are recognized as it's a learning center. So it led me to develop this ambition to really empower women and youth and talk about diversity, talk about all the issues that are not understood at that level. Showcasing social enterprise as a way for young people to develop their own pathways through their own initiatives, but creating a support system for regenerative agriculture. So regenerative agriculture for me revolves around food. Food had a connection with the gods. Where our food comes from is where the gods are, because the forest, the trees, they constitute a concept which is today maybe scientifically called permaculture. But the concept of the spiritual forest, which is not so known, was about protecting the house of the gods, because in there you found everything. Even when we have built houses, there was always a place behind the house where we serve the gods. Serve the gods is taking the refuge from the food, putting it back under the plantains or putting it in the backyard. That is where you found vegetables growing. You found medicinal herbs for the family. Everything was around this concept. So I started building these dreams of transforming not only my community, but maybe my country, or even the world. So the concept of the village became a concept for the world, because this is the thing about, if we are thinking about systems, we are even thinking now about changing systems. The question is really, are we changing the systems that created us? Or are we changing the systems that we have created and are creating? And now we even believe that is these systems that create us. So my concept became a kind of education concept. And this is where I can now start to talk about the complexities of this world. Because of my ideas, they came in conflict with the powers that be. Even the government that supported me to institute permaculture in Cameroon started to enforce the demands of the multinationals. I wasn't allowed to speak against genetically modified organisms. I wasn't allowed to speak against chemicals. I wasn't allowed to say that we should continue to sell our seeds for sovereignty. So this was the beginning of trouble for a project that has been held by the young people, and the young people who followed me were termed terrorists, even though we started a climate campaign that took us into wider circles of the UN, of the International Permaculture Convergence, into the Global Ecovillage Network. So talking about equity, dignity, or bottom up, it's a crime. So I don't know how this fits into regeneration then, because it seems that even talking about regeneration is a crime. And so the real question then becomes, what systems really are we talking about?
Yeah.
And what change are we talking about?
That's the thing, right? When we talk about radical change, we have to really be honest about what we're dealing with, because I have this feeling that there's a lot of talk about environmental sustainability and regeneration, but it's very much just talk. And when you really try to change things, as you said, you come up against the interests of you powerful, wealthy people. Yeah. So how is the situation now for you and for your eco village?
The crisis continues. The eco-village was burnt down on June 2nd of this year, 2021. So for me, I find myself here in Europe. I don't know whether it's for me, I consider it a liberation for my spirit, because since being here, the war started in 2016. I have come to face the situation, face the world, and face myself. So then came COVID, and I realized that acting globally, I have to join the movements where I am and continue, because I believe in learning, I believe in love, I believe in regeneration. So there are people, and this is one of the reasons I'm talking with you, who feel that this is really time to face the issues of life. It's all about life. Life, not only of human beings, but all the other beings. Everything needs healing. The world needs healing. The plants need, everything needs. And this, for me, is a situation now where, through this kind of conversations, it's another form of exchange and knowledge creation. But then, if we talk from the heart, connect from the heart, face the issues, talk about capitalism, talk about racism, talk about Black Lives Matter. For me, this is what acting globally means. Like, you are trying to understand the situation that is happening on the ground in Cameroon, where, because of the systems that are put to us from outside. Actually, what can I say? When I was younger, I also embraced these systems. I thought that was the education. They told us in fact, they renamed us. I have another name, which is called an English name. My other name is Joshua. If I say Konkankoh, then they say, no, that's not a name. Tell me your name. This is what has brought the situation in Cameroon and in Africa generally to where it is. Believe it or not, COVID has opened the eyes of the world, including the eyes of those people who are rightly or wrongly called the dark or the black continent. They know that they are not the poorest of the earth as they are being told, because they have gold, they have diamonds, they have forest, timber, and they understand why they are being killed. And they understand why they were forced to learn different people's history and recite other people's national anthems. You know, this is the world we have created. As chaotic as it is, we are living in it. Say whether we have the responsibility and the will to make, because the simplest thing is nature. Nature made, well, since I am talking about God from an African perspective, God is the physical side of nature. And so if we deal with nature and we are part of that nature, we'll discover that nature has the simplest solutions. But so long as we replace the gods and we now decree who has to live, who has to die, which place will be developed and which should not be developed. This I open, and I think it's a concept of most Africans, not because we are damn foolish. I think our own indigenous knowledge, we believe that we are very intelligent people. Sometimes we feel sorry for the white people and the black people who believe in the white people's stories, because we have our own stories to tell. So I am honest, I am open, but it depends the way you approach me and your intentions. Human beings are human beings. We can connect and we can do things rightly or wrongly, and that's what we will have.
I'm very sorry to hear about the eco-village, though. I had no idea that it had been burnt down. And, you know, this is what's just so tragic, right? Is that there are these powers, as you say, who don't want people to connect to their indigenous knowledge and don't want people to connect to the land. And I am completely with you. We have to be able to have these hard conversations and talk about racism. Like, I have to ask myself, where does racism and colonialism live in me, right? Because it's been fed to me from a young age in my society. And we all have to really start to ask ourselves these things and look at what's going on, I think. So now you're in Portugal. So I saw actually on your profile you had some connection with the Tamera community in Portugal.
The reason I am in Portugal, and I'm happy you visited, and probably you say you like eco-villages. My project was to start a movement in Africa to transition African villages to resilience. And I learned from the Tamera Ecovillage concept, because I did the water retention landscapes. I've done some things around other eco-villages in Finhorn, transition to resilience, also transition towns. All the eco-village movements, I think this is a time that we need to speak more about the eco-villages, because eco-villages bring not only the rural community, but also the urban communities. And this is the time when they should be at the forefront of the SDGs. Because there's also rising ambition of the young people to contribute to the new normal, which is about systems that are not destroying our souls, destroying the environment, but are bringing. So we are in a hybrid framework. And the eco-villages should be a model. Yeah, so with the crisis in Cameroon, I found myself in another eco-village. If you look even as the internet, which could and should become the real community connecting people, it's been used to divide the world even further. Because we are talking about creating a global culture and not thinking about those people who do not have the infrastructure, who cannot connect to the internet. This is a problem. So if you consider constellations like eco-villages, they are microcosms of the mega culture that we want to create. So I think this education needs to be made available to those who are talking about change, whether they really want the change. The good thing about nature is that everything for life is found in the nature. It's how we deal with these issues, both internally and externally, as individuals and as society. So communities like families are the basic units of society. There's much more I can say about the eco-villages because they are living biotopes. They try to recreate the world that we have destroyed. And they make us to understand that we are living biotopes ourselves. Even the viruses that we feel that we have all the power to keep out, the viruses are part of the community. What are they rebelling for? What are they saying? I mean, is this something that we must prove scientifically because science has replaced our common understanding of nature or of God or whatever we call God? It's not one person's figment of imagination that forces itself down the throat of people and call it democracy.
Do you think without transitioning more and more to eco-villages that humanity will survive?
Life itself, life, it's the soul that nobody can master. it has its ways. Young people should be conscious enough to know how they align themselves with the forces of life, not artificial robots who are teleguided to believe that they belong to what they don't belong to. We are not artificial beings. If we know what human or humors, we would know where we belong.
So I'll ask you the last question now, because I always try to keep the conversation under 30 minutes, as much as I'm sure we could talk all day. Yeah, what's the vision of the future that keeps you motivated?
Life itself is fun. It's exciting to know that whatever we do, there will still be a future. Yes, for those who are not afraid of dying because of COVID, there would start to be a mind shift. So my vision is to see this manifest into genuine partnerships, not Eurocentric partnerships or Europe, American, whatever. Genuine in the sense of the SDG number 17. What really is it talking about? What are the tools? And is there really a political will? So I have a vision of seeing this eco-village and systems change education actually build the minds of people so that we can live the life that we really want to live. A better world is possible.
Thank you. And is there anything else you'd like to share or to say before we finish?
Yeah, I would like to share that even as a Black cultured person living among white cultured people, I have discovered that nature is speaking to us through COVID, and that people shouldn't look at the physical COVID. They should look at their own spiritual COVID, which is calling them to heal from the inside.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for sharing with me today. And yeah, I am with you on the journey of choosing life and choosing healing.
I think Portugal has something to offer the world. It might not be the richest country in Europe, but I see a new culture developing here. And a new culture can develop anywhere. It's this internal ecology that I was talking about, which we can develop. We can also go to eco-villages. Many people's lives, young people's lives have been transformed. From my work in Cameroon and the work that there are many places in the world that are doing this great work of regeneration. And young people like you should make an effort to connect the dots. because it's no longer top down, it's bottom up.
I agree. That's why this video series is as grassroots as it gets. It's me in my bedroom recording interviews on the internet. Yes.
Bringing the whole world into your bedroom and bringing your bedroom to the world. It's a world of interconnectivity, interbeing.
What a time to be alive. Thank you.
It's a great new world. Thank you for the